Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Austin Brand, the AI evangelist here at Integrail. Recently, I had the privilege of sitting down with our founder and our chief product officer, Anton Antich. Anton is a true pioneer and leader in the agentic AI space, so we're very excited to talk to him today. Anton is one of the brains behind our amazing AI Studio platform, and he has a very exciting new capability that he has brought to our platform called the Universal Connector Node. Today, we're going to be diving into what is the Universal Connector Node and how does it ultimately differ from MCP, or Model Context Protocol. So without further ado, let's jump right in with Anton.
So Anton, thank you so much for joining us today. We just wanted to get your input on everything that's around the Universal Connector Node. So the very first question that I have for you today is exactly what is this Universal Connector Node?
Yeah, thanks, Austin, and thanks for having me. So basically, Universal Connector Node allows you to connect to any API if you have some sort of documentation to it. It can be human language description, it can be an example of usage using programming language, pretty much anything from which we are able to extract the information about how to call this API. Then you just feed it to a specific, what we call a node designer that will design this Universal Connector Node. And it will be created for you to be able to connect to the API that you have. Basically, the idea why we wanted to create this is that integrations are key in the modern world, and without integrating different systems, it's impossible to do any useful work done. And there are basically two approaches. Either you have to hand code everything, which was what people used to do before the LLM age. And now we just built a custom agent that actually generates those connectors on the fly, and it allows us to connect to any system you want in literally minutes or even seconds.
Amazing. So with all that, especially the whole idea of custom building this agent to actually grab all that information and grab these APIs, what exactly would you say are the main benefits of using, in this case, the Universal Connector to connect to these APIs? Like, how does that empower your agents and kind of your agent force, your workforce?
Right. So basically, think about agents as workers. And in fact, that's sort of the direction where industry is moving and where we as a company are moving as well. You have your, as the CEO of NVIDIA put it, biological workforce, and you have your digital workforce. So these AI workers that we are creating, obviously for them to do any useful work, they need to have access to your systems, just like a human worker that you would employ. He or she needs access to the CRM, to the email system, to everything that you have in your corporate environment for them to be able to do that work. It's absolutely the same with AI workers. You need to give them access to the systems that you have so that they can read information from those systems and or make changes in those systems when they need to update something. For instance, a status of the opportunity in the sales pipeline, or when they need to create a draft email to follow up a conversation, etc., etc. Basically, anything a system can do, your agents are able to do as well.
Okay. And with that, and I know that you're constantly working with clients, and obviously this was your idea to build in the first place, and you even just went through maybe a few examples of what could be used. But maybe for all the business leaders out there, or just in general, anyone listening, what would you say are some of the most common use cases that you have found, or you've seen that it is the most powerful to use? In this case, for the Universal Connector. What do you think are those highest use cases?
Well, I think the most common and the most straightforward use case is what people call talk to your data. We actually don't really like it as much because it's really basic, but it allows people to get familiar with what AI workers can do. Basically, the idea here is that you can create an agent that listens to what the human needs, to the question that the human is asking. Then it will generate several search queries to all kinds of systems that you have, to your internal Wikipedia, to your SharePoint, to your email system, whatever you need. All of them will be connected through this universal connector. They will return some relevant documents Then a large language model will analyze those documents and combine a final report for you to understand sort of the knowledge that you have on a specific issue. That's probably sort of the most generic and common use case. But what we actually encourage our customers to do is to sit together with us. We have a very good services team, and to identify the jobs or business processes that are low-hanging fruit. And in many cases, they can be very custom because every company has lots of very complex, rule-based job descriptions that need to be performed on a daily basis. And that is usually a low-hanging fruit for agents like this, because they take out the boring and mundane part from the human job, and they allow your human employees to focus on more creative parts or on decision making, while all the stuff like logging into portals or finding information here or there, all of it can be outsourced to the agents.
Yeah. It makes a ton of sense. And yeah, of course, I love that as well. So I have a quick question that I think those that have used API calls before in the past might be thinking throughout this. With this universal connector node, obviously we know that APIs and the authentication models change or can change also over time. How exactly does it work with this universal connector node when, let's say, an API endpoint or authentication model changes?
Well, in the current version of the platform, you have to update the universal API. So basically, we will flag it for you that something might have been broken in a certain API node. And then you just copy the updated documentation and you update this node. In the new product version that we're working on, and that's expected to be released in June, all of it is done automatically. We basically put the links to the sources of the factual or actual documentation for APIs for all the major vendors, such as Microsoft, Google, CRM providers, etc., etc. And we automatically follow if there are any changes, if there are any updates, and we make sure that all of these nodes based on this documentation are automatically up to date and working.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. Very, very exciting. And with that kind of goes to the future as well, but kind of like you were talking about. What would you say is your grand vision for this universal connector node and being able to actually connect to APIs on Integrail's platform? If you have any kind of future plans and grand vision of how you envision this to go in the future.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we are currently working on the next iteration of the product. That's really exciting for us. We learned a lot while working and getting customer feedback from the current platform. So we are working on simplifying the interface significantly. And the universal connector approach is actually a foundation of our new architecture. So everything is built on this universal connector. And as I mentioned, basically, we try to support as wide number of API providers as possible. So we try just to work with every major vendor. And again, thanks to our agents, all we need is just public documentation for the API, and then everything else is done automatically. So we are not limited in the number of systems we are supporting, but we want to make sure we provide out-of-box experience that includes those API connectors to all the major corporate environments that people are familiar with, as I mentioned, Microsoft, Google, and all the other major vendors. And basically, it's just, it's not a revolution, it's an evolutionary development of the idea of this universal connector. We are making sure it's in the foundation and it's much easier to use for people, so that to build agents that are much more versatile than anything that we have seen so far is even easier than it was up to now.
Awesome. That's amazing. And now that kind of leads into the whole idea of the greater landscape of the AI world right now. Now, obviously, I think it was late last year that Anthropic came out with the whole idea of MCP and Model Context Protocol. That is where most people right now are obviously researching and looking into. How would you say that the universal connector node is both similar and different from MCP?
Yeah, this is somewhat of a philosophical question and difference of approaches, I want to say. I would say that majority of agent platform providers are focusing on developers. So you need to know Python, you need to be able to code to create those agents. We took a different approach. We do not require any development experience. We actually want to enable business people or completely non-technical people to be able to create any agents that would be able to do useful work for them. And having said that, we don't really see the need for MCP. MCP is a great protocol when you're developing, and it's a certain API that allows you to discover what kind of tools are available on a certain endpoint. But using universal connector is not really needed. All we need is just API documentation. And again, it can be formalized, it can be an open API spec, or it can be just a documentation written in the human language. We'll take anything as a source, and we'll create this connector, and we will be able to use it as a tool in any of our agents. So we, of course, welcome MCP, we support MCP, but in a sense, it is redundant to what our platform can do.
Great. So, and you've already brought up the whole idea of the difference between maybe, a developer looking at this from an API standpoint and an MCP standpoint. What do you think, if any, if there are any developers that are listening to this right now, what are the main, if any main trade-offs between choosing, in our case, the universal connector node or MCP, or are they, effectively going to do the same thing?
Well, I mean, I might be biased, but I think, again, MCP is not needed. If you're using our platform, you don't need MCP. If a server provider has an MCP exposed, we will use it, but it is not required. Again, any sort of documentation, we will connect to you. And I mean, frankly speaking, MCP seems like an additional burden to API providers. They are forced to write an additional layer on top of what they expose already to make agents easier to connect to them. But why? It is not really clear, because LLMs understand the existing documentation very well. It's, I mean, it's a great play by Anthropic from the marketing and business point of view, but again, we do not consider it necessary.
Okay. I mean, hey, that's great to hear, and I think very interesting for everyone here. That I think the next kind of logical step would be, if you wouldn't mind, we would love to see an example of what this universal connector node looks like and how we can actually connect to an API.
Let me just create a new agent, and we'll build something using our universal connector to show how easy it is to use. So to do that, what we're going to do, we're not just going to create a connector node, but we're going to build a very simple agent that does the following. It takes the information on the user on LinkedIn using the API we have here at Rapid API, and then it returns the latest posts that this user has created. And we will ask our agent to summarize those posts and maybe find some sales points for us to talk to this person. And this agent can be a very simplistic, foundation for your lead enrichment or lead outreach agent, for instance. So everything that you need, as I mentioned, to create a universal connector node is just provide some sort of documentation or usage example. And what I'll do, I'll just copy what I have here as a usage example, and I'm trying to behave as a non-developer, so I don't understand what this code means, so I just copy everything. Normally, of course, I may delete the try block because it's irrelevant, but I just copy everything. Then we go to our Studio interface, we go to Add Node, into Node Designer, generate integration. Then we paste this usage example. We wait for some time while the connector node is being generated. And as you can see, it creates you the title, the description, everything that you need. And it actually understands what the parameters should be automatically, just based on the usage example. So it has a specific URL, and the parameter that it's taken is the username. And as you can see, it actually captured the parameters for headers that use authentication and some additional information here. So now you can test this node before saving it so that you have output info. Let's test it. We'll just press get and wait for some time. So as you can see, it returns results. We don't need to concern ourselves with that. We just click create. Now this node was created successfully, and what we can do, we can use it in our agent. First of all, let's save this agent with some good name. LinkedIn file reader, for instance. We'll save it. Now we go into new node, and we will find this node that's been just generated right here. LinkedIn profile post get node. It's this one. So we just press on it. And what we see here is everything that's been generated. So what we want to do, we don't care about URL, about method. We just care about the username because this is the one we might want to change. We will just connect it to user prompt. We will delete this user prompt here. All right, so as you can see, it returns some output info. For instance, there's the data, which is the object that we are mostly interested in, that returns all the posts that the person has written. And if you have been following how to work with Integrail, to work with lists, we have a special for each node. So let us just use it here for each parallel. Be connected to the data. So we return the post in the actual text field. And what we can do now is we will just combine all the posts that have been returned in the list into one single text using for each return node. It's right here. We just put text here. And now what we're going to do is combine everything into one document as we're normally doing with this type of agents using text join. We will take this LLM node. We will attach the output to user prompt. We will choose our normal default. And we will provide some instructions. So we will say you will be given several LinkedIn posts of a person. Your task is to summarize the topics on which person is writing and potentially identify some sales points we could use if we treat this person as a sales lead. The solution we are selling, and obviously you can fill in anything you want here, but I'll just use Integrail as an example, is Integrail and AI agentic no-code platform for fastest creation of custom AI agents. That's it. Very simple prompt. Of course, we can make it much more interesting and much better, but let's just save it. So basically what we are supposed to get is the text of all the posts, which we are also outputting here, but in the final agent, you normally wouldn't want to do it. You're only interested in the summary, but we want to test it. So let's just say and see how it works. Let's run it. As you can see, it's showing the status. So we are calling this API to grab the last posts for myself. I put my username there. Now we had this for each ran successfully. And now the LLM is doing its work with summaries and sales points. So once it finishes working, we will switch to the chat view because it's easier to see the results there. So now everything is done. Everything is successful. Let's move to the chat view. Switch to this agent and let's see what we have as a summary. So as you can see, this is all of my posts combined together into one huge document. And then we have the summary provided by the LLM. And it's a very good summary. It says what I'm writing about, AI agents, Haskell programming language, and then it comes up with certain sales points, which we can emphasize personally for this person based on the posts they are writing. So in a few minutes, we built an agent that analyzes LinkedIn profile and comes up with some useful information. And of course, this is just the beginning. You can make it as complex or as sophisticated as you like. You can add lots of additional data sources about the person, like their profile or your email history with this person, etc., etc. And this way you can build a really useful lead generation or an agent that helps you to work with potential leads. And the key part of it, as we discussed, is this generator for universal connector nodes, which took us literally 30 seconds, including the time needed for generation. And you can create as many of those as you want using the node designer right here.
Great. Thank you for that, Anton. Now, just one last question for you before I let you go here. Is there anything else that you would like to provide for our listeners here? Any of your final last thoughts for everyone on the Universal Connector node?
Well, I would just encourage everybody to use their imagination, to come up with ideas of the agents you would like to see doing work for you, and either try building them on our platform yourselves or just sharing those ideas with us, because we're always looking for new ideas to build and to share with the community in terms of what is possible using AI.
Anton, I appreciate your time today and have a great day.
Thanks, Austin.
And there you have it. There was our time with Anton Antich, the founder and chief product officer here at Integrail. If you're interested in learning more and more about this Universal Connector node, you can try out our product at integrail.ai, and you can sign up for a free account today. We will continuously be talking more about this Universal Connector node so that you can learn more on how you can use it and start integrating it into your agentic workflows and just your business in general. And if you like videos like this, where we're interviewing our leaders, learning more about the functionality of AI Studio, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel and share this with all your friends. But before I go, I want to hear from you. What are some of the different APIs that you now want to start calling into your agentic AI workflows? So thanks for joining today. Make sure to stay tuned for future videos, and we'll see you next time.